Hello and welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Rather dejected, demoralised, disappointed David67 this morning. Obviously going to review yesterday's very poor performance by Celtic, losing 3-2 to Rangers. As it says in the title of the video, DEJA vu all over again, in that the same kinds of problems Celtic didn't solve in the 3-3 League Cup final, which we eventually won in penalties. Same problems we didn't solve in the 3-0 defeat at Ibrox at the start of the year. Same things happen again, and to me, one of the things that's a recurring message is it doesn't look like Celtic are changing the way they play, doesn't look like Celtic have a plan B or a plan C, and Rodgers and the players maybe going into the games a bit overconfident. That certainly was the tone Rodgers was exhibiting at the press conference on Friday, that Rangers weren't doing anything different and that Celtic's normal way of playing would beat them. Well, Celtic's normal way of playing isn't beating Rangers at the moment. Celtic tending to come off second best in most challenges, second best in most battles for the ball, and Rangers certainly doing a brilliant job yesterday and the previous two games at cutting down Celtic's space, slowing Celtic down and hitting them on the break. And I think the way that Rangers are playing Celtic is the way that Rangers have been playing in the Europa League matches with success. And it was kind of like an old-fashioned away-from-home performance. Defend, slow things down, hassle and pressurise your opponent, and then hit them on the break. It didn't work for Celtic, and it worked for Rangers yesterday. And for the second game in a row, Celtic didn't really turn up. Second half performance admittedly was better when Rangers allowed Celtic more space, and just when you think Celtic are going to go on and win it, having got back to 2-2, we're kind of hit by a sucker punch, a series of individual errors, and Igimani's brilliant shot in the 88th minute gave Rangers a 3-2 win. However, quite a lot of solace in the fact that we're still 13 points ahead, 8 games to go, so 4 wins out the last 8 games will give Celtic title number 13 in the last 14 years, and a couple of good performances in the Cup, and we'll have yet another treble. And so lots of good points to go with a rather rotten day yesterday. And it was a rotten day all around for me, and actually a rotten weekend all around for me. A few bad results for the various sports teams I was supporting. Pretty awful defeat for the Celtic women's side, and a pretty awful defeat for my other team that I support, Liverpool, and a few other very disappointing events and sports results over the weekend. And so, all in all, a weekend for me to forget about. So, moving on to the actual game, one of the thoughts I had in my pre-match video was that Celtic had to get a good start, get on top, and that was the complete opposite of what happened. Rangers got off to a brilliant start. Celtic defended rather poorly at a series of corners and throw-ins, and then Raskin in the 4th minute header, beating Kasper Schmeichel at his far post, and very poor defending and marking by Jeffrey Sloop let Raskin go clear. Rangers added a second goal through Diamande. Again, Cameron Carter-Vickers rather caught out of position. Alistair Johnson not covering across as one would expect. That left tons of space for Diamande in the middle of the box, and he swept the ball past Kasper Schmeichel, and Celtic were 2-0 down, and that was the score that ended up being the half-time score. However, having said all that, Celtic had their chances in the first half. Great shot by Rio Hatate, was very well saved by Butland, pushing the ball out to his right. A miraculous clearance by Dujon Sterling off the line from a great header by Dyson Maida. Great run by Jota that was blocked off at the near post, and a great shot by Jota just missing the far post shortly before half time. As well as Nawrocki having a header from a corner that bounced down and was well saved by Butland. And so, looking at the first half, Rangers got 2 goals. They were very efficient in front of the goal. Celtic had plenty of chances to go in 2-2 or even 3-2 up. Having said that, also, there were a couple of near misses by Rangers, a couple of very poor defensive clearances by Kasper Schmeichel, some very poor defending, primarily by Schlupp and Carter Vickers and Alistair Johnston, and Rangers could also have scored extra goals. However, at half time, Celtic did change things around. Nicholas Kuhn was taken off, who'd had a rather awful performance. On came Adam Ida, Dyson Maida swapped out to the left, Jota going down the right, and things certainly seemed to work out very well for Celtic. Lovely chipped cross by Jota to the back post, Dyson Maida rising above Tavernier and Sterling to power the header past Butland, and it was 2-1. Celtic then got their equaliser from Rio Hitati, brilliant ball by Luke McCowan, cutting through the defence, and a brilliant finish by Hitati across Butland to go 2-2. And at that point, I thought Celtic's going to win this game, and at the very worst, we're going to get a fighting 2-2 draw. However, despite the fact that we had a great shot by Schlupp that was well saved again by Butland, and a near miss with a shot from the edge of the box by Rio Hitati, we then got caught by a rather bit of a sucker punch in the 88th minute, a punt down the pitch by Butland simply to clear the defensive lines. Carter Vickers completely misjudging the ball by several feet. The ball then went well over his head, bounced awkwardly. Alistair Johnston slips, allowing Igamani to get onto the ball. Nice lucky rebound off the Celtic defender straight back to Igamani's feet. And to be fair, he hit a brilliant shot into the top corner, putting them 3-2 up with 2 minutes of normal time left to go. Rather surprisingly, Rodgers didn't throw on any extra attacking options, as might have been a good idea, nor did he send anybody more up front to support Ida and the wide two. Instead, we stuck in the same old plan. We didn't really show as much urgency as I thought we would do, having gone 3-2 down. And having said all that, however, Alistair Johnston, with what was nearly the last kick of the ball, had a brilliant chance at the back post, but unfortunately skied his shot over the bar, which is why I do wonder whether if we'd thrown on Johnny Kenny or a couple of other attacking options, whether it might have been the ball falling to Ida or Kenny or Yang or Maida in the box rather than it being Alistair Johnston, our right back, who had that vital chance. In the end, Celtic lose 3-2, still 13 points clear, still 4 wins away from title number 13 out of the last 14, and a couple of games away in the Cup, and a few good performances in the league, and yet another treble will be Celtic's. Stats are actually rather interesting. It shows actually Celtic had a lot more of the ball, a lot more of the possession, a lot more of the shots than Rangers. However, Rangers were more efficient, converted more of their chances, and in the end, Celtic performed at about 50% to 66% over the course of the whole game. Performed well in patches in the second half, but yet again didn't really show up for the battle, didn't really show up for the contest, and Rangers' tweaks in their formations and tactics and their hassling, pressurising tactics worked well for them for the third game in a row. So looking at the stats, Celtic had 72% of the possession, Rangers just 28. Celtic had 14 shots to 10 by Rangers, 6 on targets by Celtic, 5 on targets by Rangers, 7 off targets for Celtic, 4 off targets for Rangers, 1 blocked for each team. Kasper Schmeichel made 3 saves, Butland made 3 saves, corners were 7-6 for Celtic, and touches in the box were 22-20 in favour of Celtic, so pretty much all the stats in Celtic's favour. However, we didn't convert our chances, we didn't show the good enough efficiency or creativity, and quite a few defensive mistakes and errors, and the odd wee bit of bad luck here and there. And the main stat is that they won 3-2, and we move on to the international break, and then coming back with a game against Hearts, closely followed by a game against St Johnstone, and Kilmarnock being the last game of the initial phase of this part of the league. If things go well, Celtic may well be winning the title again against Kilmarnock. Otherwise, we may have to wait for the first game or two of the post-split fixtures. Finishing off with my own personal ratings, gave Kasper Schmeichel 6 out of 10. Don't think he had terribly much chance with the second or the third goals. I do think possibly had he defended the corner better, he might well have been able to save the Raskin shot header before it got across him. His distribution was rather poor. A couple of times he put Celtic into massive danger with terrible passes and clearances, and so wasn't really the usual performance by Kasper Schmeichel. I've given Alistair Johnston, Cameron Carter-Vickers, and Jeffrey Sloop all 5.5 out of 10. I thought they all played rather poorly, and two of Celtic's best players, usually Carter-Vickers and Johnston, didn't step up, and none of Celtic's experienced leaders either stood up and were counted. In the absence of Callum McGregor, I was really hoping that Carter-Vickers and Johnston and Schmeichel would take a lead and start kicking the team on, getting them back into the game, etc. But the key players were all rather quiet. Carter-Vickers, I think, made several mistakes. He was partly at fault for the second goal, very much at fault for the third goal, and we can say the same for Alistair Johnston. At fault certainly for the second goal, at fault certainly for the third goal. And Jeffrey Sloop definitely at fault for the first goal, and he didn't really take control of things on that left-hand side, and neither he nor Johnston got up and down to support the attack, apart from one good shot by Sloop and Johnston ballooning the ball over the bar in the last few seconds of the game. I've given 7 and man of the match to Mike Nawrocki. Came in at the last minute to replace Trusty, who's got a calf issue, much the same that Callum McGregor does. I thought Nawrocki did incredibly well for a player who'd played just 23 minutes of first-team football all season. Possibly slightly at fault for the second goal. He was drawn across a little bit. However, did make a great effort to block the Igamani shot, which was unfortunately just too powerful and too high for him. And I think Nawrocki made several great interceptions, tracked back very well, and covered for the mistakes that Sloop, Johnston, and Carter-Vickers made throughout the whole game. Given Aaron Engel 6 out of 10, don't think he really took control of things, didn't play the way I expected, and we very much missed our captain Callum McGregor in many, many ways, and there were very few things that Engels did that were positive. McCowan and Hatate would have got 4 or 5 for their first half performances, but both of them very much came through in the second half. McCowan setting up the Hatate goal, and a couple of good shots by McCowan and Hatate also in the second half could easily have gone in for us and given us a lead or even a victory. But it wasn't to be. So 4 or 5 out of 10 for those two in the first half, but increasing to a 7 out of 10 for the whole game because of their second half performances. After a quiet start, Jota, I thought, did really well for the last 15-20 minutes of the first half and was looking bright in the second half, and so was very surprised when he was taken off to be replaced by Yang. I've given Jota 7 out of 10. He set up the Celtic first goal. He had a couple of great chances in the first half, and I think he actually, had he stayed on, might well have been more of a difference maker, and certainly Yang's performance was rather disappointing when he did come on. Given Dyson Midas 7 out of 10. Again, his first half performance not really at its best. However, second half he played very, very well, scored a goal, looked very busy, set up a few chances and half chances, and so 7 for him. As I said earlier on, Nicholas Kuhn terrible in the first half. Hardly remember him doing anything positive. Seems scared to take on the Rangers' left-sided defenders. So 4 out of 10 for him. I've given both Yang and Ida 6 out of 10. Yang quite disappointing when he came on. Didn't have the same pace, urgency, directness that Jota had been showing. So a bit surprised he was brought on. And 6 for Ida as well. Didn't really do very much in front of the goal. However, Celtic did play better with him as a target man and an outball, and so 6 out of 10 for him. As I mentioned a wee bit earlier on, was surprised that Rodgers didn't throw on an extra attacker or two or attacking option or two when the score was at 3-2 with a couple of minutes plus added time to go, as I do think had Celtic shown some urgency and extra attacking, they would have got away with a draw. As I said earlier on, we're now into the international break. It does give players like Trusty and McGregor 10 days or so to recover in times for the Hearts game. Hopefully all the players who are away on international duty come back fit and fresh, and then a few days in training in preparation for the Hearts game, and hopefully we can get our title run back on an even keel and power our way to the last 4 wins, which will give us yet another title. Looking at the various Celtic sites and football sites this morning, no other news that I can find at the time of recording, and so we'll finish things there. As we go, just a wee polite suggestion, encouragement for those who haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. Click that subscribe button, it would cheer me up so no end on a sad day for a variety of reasons for me. If you have liked the video, do click that like button and do feel free to pop your thoughts regarding the performance, the players, the ratings, and the next few games into the comment section, keeping things, if you can, pleasant, polite, etc. And so, until the next video, goodbye and hail, hail.